Another great job. We appreciate that, choir. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate that. So just remember, next Sunday night at Mount Zion, we'll get to hear our choir twice next week, and then other choirs as well, and congregational singing. So do plan on being with us then. Okay, the scripture today is from the Gospel of Mark in the 6th chapter, verses 30 through 34, then 53 through 56. And this reads, "The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, 'Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest.' So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. When they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret and anchored there. As soon as they got out of the boat, people recognized Jesus. They ran throughout that whole region and carried the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into villages, towns, or countryside, they placed the sick in the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch even the edge of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed." Thanks be to God for these wonderful words and stories of the difference that Jesus makes. Thanks be to God. A few weeks ago, I ran across the YouTube video of the showing of James Corden and his carpool karaoke. Anybody catch that? I just stumble across it more than anything, but I really enjoy it whenever I do see it. But this time it was with Paul McCartney. Did anybody see that one? I sent that out to, different folks and everything else, because I, thought it was, very well done and also educational, and got to take me back to the sixties and everything. Get the, have Beatlemania all over again. Any Beatle fans out there? I like the earlier part of the Beatles songs better and everything. But in this, James and Paul, in addition to singing, they went back to a lot of the places before Beatlemania and as they were beginning. So it was quite educational and quite informative, getting to see. And then also I was just amazed with even the editing job that was done with that. But one of the things I noticed that as they would be in different settings where they would stop and get out, that immediately crowds began to gather. And that made me think back to, those times that, with the Beatles and so many other bands and groups like that would have, the crazed crowds just chasing them and after them. And I thought, well, this old stuff compared to Jesus, he had all that long before that people came, and they wanted Jesus's touch, his healing, his blessings, that they would end up encroaching upon Jesus. If we remember a couple weeks ago, the story about the woman with the issue of blood, who didn't want to bother Jesus, but just said, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made well. And she was. And then Jesus asked, who touched me? And the disciples looked at Jesus and said, well, what is wrong with you? There's hundreds of people encroaching upon you, and you ask, who touched me? Everybody. And then Jesus knew that there was something different about that touch. And he affirmed faith that they had. But here we find Jesus has gotten such popularity that he can't even pause long enough to eat. The disciples had come back from a crusade, and that they were elated to see what God was doing from, in and through them on Jesus' behalf, that they couldn't even find ample time to have a question-answer time, a thorough reporting time, a restful time, let alone a time for nourishing one's body, as well as the time of recharging the spiritual batteries through prayer and fellowship. But as they had this time, Jesus said, come away with me to a quiet place and get some rest. That they travel across the ocean, the sea there, and then as they get there, the crowds are there immediately again. And that they want something from Jesus. That they brought the sick to him. And Jesus looked at them as sheep without a shepherd, that they needed a caregiver that he was able to be. And I'm sure that some of the disciples say, here we go again. If you have ever been exhausted and tired and you just felt like you had nothing else to give, perhaps as a parent or a grandparent, you remember those exhaustive states when you just think, oh, when can I send the grandkids home? Or, when is bedtime? And you just think, I haven't got anything else to give. Just go to Walmart late at night, and you'll see some glimpses of that, And we begin to realize that, it is so easy to get that fatigue set in, and you kind of think to yourself, I just don't have it to give. But you do sometimes. But Jesus, with the exhausted disciples, was able to continue to care and to bless the crowds. Even though with that crowd that Jesus knew that they wanted to be taken care of. We could even say, they were quite, selfish for themselves even for loved ones that they may have said, we have come and bringing this one who needs your touch, that they were able to find that Jesus didn't say, well, I'll see you at 9 o'clock in the morning, but that he continued to minister. He continued to care for them because he said they were like sheep without a shepherd. And as we talked about before about sheep, and I'm still learning about sheep, I've told you that they're really helpless, and we will also say that they're not viewed as the most intelligent of animals, that they, have been domesticated for, well over 11,000 years, my research tells me, that their natural instinct for self-preservation has been bred away, and that they're now totally dependent upon their caregivers, upon humans for their care. And then some would even say that they're even unable to distinguish their own offspring. And so when Jesus looked at them, he knew that they needed him, that they needed his disciples, and that he would bless them. He would teach them, and he would pray that they would get it, that his disciples would be coachable. I remember in elementary school hearing that description in sports, saying you want to be coachable. And, that was one of the things that stuck with me. And as I coached my children and youth teams over the years, that I would stress to them is the need to be able to hear, to listen, to learn, to be able to follow through with the instruction. And in those rare moments that you had success, of saying, yes, you got it, you got it. Teachers in classrooms, parents with children, grandparents with their children with children, saying, have you got it yet? Because that's one of the things that, I find still, that my father and my mother have tried to teach me when I was younger. And I didn't listen so well then, but that their teaching continues even into my age at this point. I was like, so that's what they meant by that. And so many of those things I said, I wish I had listened so much better. But then I find where I try to find those resources. People had enough sense to know that Jesus could be an answer to them, that they would do the things that would prove that they had need, that they would follow Jesus, that they would just say, just let me touch your clothing, and that would be enough. To not even have to ask face to face. But here it was, Jesus seeing the needs of the people. And he responded, not in chastisement, not in exhaustion of saying, I'm sorry, I don't have enough to give you now. That he was always to say, what do you need? What do you seek? As he taught them, and as he wanted them to understand his teaching, his kingdom principles, his kingdom values. And as I'm sure he knew the power of repetition. The 3-point sermon, tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. Repetition of having to hear it again and again in order for one to get it and hope that they get it. And I'm sure that there were days that Jesus says, you really are a bunch of sheep, aren't you? I remember in 3rd grade, back, in that late day when we learned about regrouping. And I remember Mrs. True, who I gave credit to in 2nd grade, and saying, if it wasn't for her, I would have been a 2nd grade dropout. Yeah. And I remember, her just thinking and grabbing her head and says, I don't think you'll ever get this. And I remember just that sense of devastation. I have disappointed Mrs. Drew. And some days I know how to recruit, even now. But, wanting them to get it, and I'm sure that Jesus looked at them as sheep, that he looks at me as a sheep, of saying, you'll get it one of these days. To know that he has compassion. How great that is. Because there's some days I'm extra dense, that I just don't get it, that I'm still saying, well, tell me again, I know I had it once. Now tell me again. And now my kids are telling me more and more that, are you losing it? Anybody else hear that? They're not here, so I can say that. And I just think, I hope not. But it is to be able to take that which has been given and to apply it, put it into practice. But most of all, to remember that Jesus sees us with love and compassion, with blessing, that he's able to say, I've got more to give you. Even those words that he timely said, I have so much more to tell you, but you just can't bear it now. That we're constantly in need of growing, and that we have this Jesus, who, even exhausted, tired, is willing to reach within the resources to say, I bless you. I have love and compassion for you, grace and mercy. Yes. And he still prays for us, saying, Lord, help them get it. Help them to make a difference. Help them to put into practice these kingdom principles, these teachings that I give, that they will arise and stand up and understand so much more of my love, of my power, of my willingness to bless, and my desire for them to bless others in my name. How rejoicing it is to know that this is the kind of God that we have, the kind of Jesus who, even as he says, Lord, if it be possible to let this cup pass from me, not my will, but thy will be done. That as he looks over us, when we say, give me, help me, bless me, save me, heal me, fix me, give to me, that Jesus is able to find the strength to give us what we need, and hopefully that we will understand what a gift we have been given. And so when we're tired, when we're exhausted, and whenever we feel the Spirit to lead us, to guide us, to direct us, to say, you give them something to eat. You bless them. You encourage them. You help them. You be Jesus to them. That we will find the strength and the resources to know that God will not leave us short-handed. All we have to have is that willingness to not say, see you at 9 in the morning. That through the power of Jesus Christ, I give to you this gift that will change your life forever. Let me tell you about it. For we are all like sheep. We need a shepherd, and that Jesus Christ shepherds us and equips us with training that we too can shepherd and to make a difference in people's lives, where it's not just about us, but it's about blessing others in the name of Jesus Christ, the gift of God for the people of God. Use that gift as Jesus teaches us to be a blessing, full of love, full of compassion, even when we're not at our best, that we're able to bring the kingdom of God to others. And that they may just so ungratefully snatch it and take it. But sometimes we will see a transformation, as Sharon shares so beautifully today, that we will help them through those struggles, of shaking those wings within the cocoons of many different layers, and finally see the beauty of them flying to be a blessing as God has blessed them, and that we have the chance of being a part of that process. Thanks be to God. May we truly see a new creation in Jesus Christ. Thanks be to God. Amen. As we join together in singing our last song, our altar is open for anyone that says, I'm tired, I'm weak, I'm weary, I'm worn, and I just don't know if I've got it to give. Jesus, help me to have enough of you that I can go one more day, one more step, one more time of blessing me here and now. That you give me that opportunity, that privilege of being an imitator of you, to be Jesus to the world as Christ works through us, as God's Spirit works through us, and we see such a transformation that we truly will rejoice and not forget that we are a kingdom people about kingdom business. Thanks be to God. Feel free to come. Savior like a shepherd. 1, 2, and 4, 381. Oh, gracious God, thank you for loving us. Thank you for caring for us. Thank you for being patient with us. Thank you for blessing us. As we go forward from this sanctuary into the world, where we will be tired, where we will be worn out, hopefully it's for your business, your kingdom reality, the chance of showing your love that truly is a blessing. help us to go and see your hand at work.